What I want to start off with is a comment that Antonio made in his press conference about, it's the first time he's seen his mark being left on this side. He's talking about the fullbacks and how well they played, and that moment for the first goal when Ryan Sessegnon plays it and Matt Doherty's there at the back post to finish it off. How much do you agree with him? Are you seeing that hallmark Antonio thing now at Spurs?
Yeah, I wouldn't look. Would I say it's the first time? I would say no. The only reason is because I think Reguilon has been doing that quite a bit, and I've mentioned that before. That Reguilon has actually got into the box much more than any of the other fullbacks since Antonio Conte's come, and he's the one who's been getting in the goal scoring positions.
But maybe it's the first time we've seen it from both fullbacks at the same time.
Yeah, that's what I've continually said. For not only about Emerson, but also about Matt Doherty and his time at Wolves. Matt Doherty's biggest asset when he was at Wolves was getting in the box and being an extra option, causing havoc. And that was how he was able to be so effective in the final third. He was always that extra option, being that wide wing back. He always, especially when you're playing it to back four, more often than not, if the winger's not going to track you all the way back, you're going to find yourself very with a lot of space and very free. It's exactly what happened yesterday. For the first goal, it was wing back to wing back. I don't think I've seen Emerson ever be in the position that Doherty was in yesterday, apart from actually maybe near the end of the game when he nearly scored. But again, it was very different because it wasn't kind of a wing back to wing back situation, and that is a staple of. I said it at the time on the watch, and that was an absolute staple of an Antonio Conte team. The wing backs getting really high. Being in very dangerous positions and being there to score. And Matt Doherty's shown for Wolves he can do that position. He hasn't shown it for Tottenham, but maybe he hasn't had a sustained run of games in that kind of position under Antonio Conte. And if he can play like anywhere, if he can play like he did yesterday, Doherty on a regular basis, maybe he does have a place in this team.
I mean, if he plays like that regularly, it'll be hard for Emerson to displace him from the team, let's be honest. But, that wing-back to wing-back thing wasn't the only time we saw it in the game. That was in the opening minutes of the game, wasn't it, where we went 1-0 up and Matt Doherty scored. But later on in the game, we saw it with Matt Doherty storming down the right and him putting a ball in for Ryan Sessegnon, and Ryan Sessegnon just about missing out and miscontrolling whatever he did. But it happened a few times with the two wing-backs really getting involved with the game yesterday, and it's something I love to see. I thought Ryan Sessegnon, both Matt Doherty and Sessegnon were really good yesterday.
And that was also helped Harry Kane a lot, having those wing backs in those positions, because every time he picked up the ball deep, they were running, they were there. And that's something I doubted about Doherty, whether he has that ability. A bit like, as much as I criticise Emerson, I always said whenever we pick up the ball in tight areas and in central areas, he's always an option. He might not have the quality, but he's always there to get the ball to, and it opens up space, and that's important. And I've always questioned whether Doherty could do that, but yesterday, and maybe it was just because it was against Leeds, but he did that constantly. How many times Doherty was free on the right-hand side, but not just free, in very dangerous positions, and he created so many goal-scoring opportunities and so much space, and he was unlucky not to get even more than a goal yesterday, and that shows what a difference it was compared to his previous performances. And there was really good stuff. It was really good from Matt Doherty. I couldn't praise him high enough for yesterday's performance. Easily his best performance in the Tottenham shirt by far, by a long way. And that's exactly the kind of performances he used to put in for Wolves.
Yeah, definitely. So we started the game like a house on fire yesterday. I think it was pretty much for 90 minutes, barring maybe 10 minutes at the end of the first half, was total domination from Tottenham yesterday. We controlled that game completely, in my opinion. We were 2-0 up within, 15 minutes or something like that.
Decky with a lovely finish.
Kulusevski, I mean, he is getting better and better game on game. He's getting to grips with the way the Premier League works. And that goal yesterday, he started off in the corner by the corner flag. Does a little 1-2, was it, with Matt Doherty?
Matt Doherty, yeah.
And then he beats a few. I mean, let's be honest, the defending from Leeds in that goal was shocking.
Yeah, it was very strange. I think it was Strauch. He just runs across Doherty. I don't know whether he thinks he's taking the ball or not, but he just completely misses the ball. And then that was a bit of luck maybe Kulusevski needed to get the shot off. But you got to say, once you get to that position, it was ruthless, right into the fourth.
What a finish.
A lot of people say you can't be beaten at your near post, but when there's that much power on it, and it was right into the corner as well. It's hard to stop, especially from that range. And he nearly did it again in the second half, just a bit further out. Good save from Mesne that time. But he is starting to look 2 goals already in his first 3 starts in the Tottenham shirt, same as he's got this whole season for Juventus. I think he's made a very, very encouraging start. And it's not just his shooting, is it? It's, dribbling, awareness. We've got a very good first touch. He's a strong lad as well. Big, he's nearly 6 foot. He's got good physicality. So
seems like he's ready made for the Premier League.
Yeah, the more he plays, the better he's going to get, I think. And I think we might have, again, as I said when we signed him, in terms of him seeing the very best, the best player he's going to take a bit of time. But for sure, right now, we're seeing a player who could very much contribute to our team.
And, we say a lot about Emerson Royale, about coming into a new league, and, he's coming into a new position as well, and not really hitting the ground running in the Premier League. I mean, it's the polar opposite with Kulusevski, isn't it? He's come in, the same age, 21 years old. He's come in and he's slotted in straight away. Yeah, in a few sub-appearances, he didn't look unbelievable, but in all the starts, all the starts he has, Burnley, Man City, and yesterday against Leeds, I think he's put in really good performances.
Yeah, 100%.
All 3 of them.
100% agree. And I think I think this position is pretty perfect for him, because he can go central, he can go out wide, cutting in on his left foot as well. And that left foot we haven't even seen yet. There'll be his ability to curl it into the far post, because that's his forte usually. He went for a couple of near post efforts yesterday. And I think he's such a clever player as well. Not just that, I also think defensively he's very strong. He does a lot of running off the ball. I think he runs one of the highest in the team. He gets in good positions. I think he's a bit more defensively aware than someone like Lucas, who I'm never doubted Lucas's work rate. But I just think when he's off the ball, he relies on his pace a lot of the time to win the ball and get tracked back on defenders and attackers. But I think Kulu's much more positionally aware. He's much more aware of people around him, people running off him. Whereas I think people like Lucas aren't that aware off the ball, and that was really, really positive, I thought, from Decky yesterday. And that, all their attacks pretty much came down Rafinha's side, didn't they? They didn't have much down his side.
No, they didn't. And I think also Romero was a big part to play in that. I thought Romero on that right-hand side was mopping up everything that came his way. Another top-quality performance from Romero. But a player that I really want to talk about is Harry Winks, because I thought he came in, slotted in. I mean, we were talking in the preview saying this could be a good game for him. He played well in the first game under Conte against Leeds. Conte speaking about Winks as well, saying every time he comes in, he does a good job for the team, and he's someone that I can trust on. And I thought he put in a really good performance yesterday, Winksy.
Yeah, and it all started with the opening goal. It was a brilliant ball to Sessegnon, which obviously set us on our way. And I thought, I said in the preview I wasn't too worried about Winks coming in this particular game, because I actually think this probably suits him. He gets a bit of space to pass into. That's how he likes that a lot, having those passes over the top or passes into space. And I think he thrived yesterday. I think defensively as well. He wasn't overrun. I think him and Højbjerg did a very good job patrolling the central areas.
A lot of people were worried about that combination of Højbjerg and Winks, in any game, to be honest. But in this game, in the build-up to it, because of the 2 players out injured, we've seen in the past Højbjerg and Winks not having the greatest partnership together in the middle of the park and sometimes getting overrun. But it was let's be honest, though, we came up against the Leeds side whose manager is gone now, sacked after this game, and it was an easy game for us, pretty much, because Leeds just didn't really offer too much threat yesterday.
I think we played it tactically to perfection. I think we made sure that we weren't pressing, that we weren't getting too high. We made sure that we invited them onto us. We were very compact in the central areas. We made sure that when we won the ball, whenever we won the ball, springing on them, exploiting the space ruthlessly, and that's exactly what we did. Especially the first goal, we did that. And when we were able to build to stay in attacks, we were looking very dangerous. We were getting men forward. The fullbacks were getting forward into space. We were penning them in a bit, and obviously I think we were very clinical yesterday. I think in the second half, we probably had a few chances that we missed. But in the first half, it was just a case of being super clinical when we got forward. And when you have players like Son and Kane around and quality like Kulu, you can do that. And I thought we didn't give them too many openings. They did have a few openings, but there were for me there were a bit like either mistakes or like maybe a lucky ricochet. I don't think they opened us up like
They hit the woodwork
with football.
twice, didn't they? One from a set piece.
Yeah, one from the free kick right at the end of the game when it was 4-0, and the other one when the ball like just ricocheted to Robin Koch and he was able to hit the post. Obviously, the other good chance they had was a Lloris howler, which we got away with.
Yeah, let's talk about that because, I mean, there was like 2 mistakes in that action. I mean, he comes out and he wins it and then he loses it. I mean, it was very strange. And then you're seeing...
He tried to get himself sent off.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. He literally tried to grab the ball with his hands when he's like miles outside the box. I don't know what he was doing there. But then Dallas goes through on goal. Looks like for all the world...
He's trying to stop the goal, but he's basically risking a red card.
Yeah, but why at that moment with 4-0 up?
I think it was 3-0 at that time.
Either way, 4 or 3-0, it doesn't matter. Like, you're 3-0 up, the game's pretty much won. Why try to get yourself sent off in that situation?
Because he maybe felt like if red card, he misses one game and then... If he keeps a clean sheet, he can keep the clean sheet. But yeah, I agree. It's probably better off in that situation to just to try stop him scoring rather than getting yourself sent off.
Yeah, and like it looks for all the world to see that Dallas, I think it was Dallas, that was bearing down on goal, had a complete open goal. Ben Davies just comes out of absolutely nowhere. He came out of nowhere.
Look, and I'm not taking credit away from Ben Davies because you're right. It was brilliant block, and he didn't give up. A lot of players in that position, they did like you see. I've seen it before. You see players when a player has an open goal like that, they can just stop and say, "Oh, he's going to score. Let's just reset." But he didn't give up. He got back in position, made an unbelievable block, but. What is Dallas doing? Because he waited and waited and waited and literally waited for Davis to come. He could have easily scored that a lot earlier on. Stuart Dallas. The goal was open. He's like he wanted all the time in the world. He forgot how much time he had. And by the time he got the shot off, Davis was able to get a block on him. And also you had a pass to Rafinha on as well if he wanted for the open goal. So
Rafinha was furious. So.
Oh, that I would have been furious if I was him as well. That was absolutely diabolical, I thought, from Dallas. But look, that was already at 3-0 anyway. So look, they did have some moments. So it wasn't like the perfect defensive display, but I think by and large, I think tactically we kept them at bay, and I think we knew exactly what we were doing. They had most of the possession, but we knew what we were doing when we had possession. It was very systematic. It was you saw the patterns, and I thought tactically we had the game under control. We exploited that space that Leeds were leaving, and we made sure that we restricted their space, and that worked to a T. And you got to say. So we talked about the first 2 goals. The last 2 goals are 2 of the best passes of the season, I think.
Mate, that pass from Højbjerg over the top, and not just that pass, but Kane, that finish. Oh my God! On the volley, side netting, unbelievable. That goal was straight out of the top drawer, and it all started that pass from Højbjerg over the top, and it was just unbelievable.
Yeah, that goal was underrated probably because of the goal, because the pass came made later. But that pass from Højbjerg, I think you're not going to see a better pass than that this whole weekend until a bit later. But pinpoint right onto Kane's left foot. It was a very, very difficult pass to make from Højbjerg. But I told you, when Højbjerg has time and space, he can pick out a pass, and I think he's shown that. It's when he's rushed and pressed and harried that he can panic a bit. But yesterday was a prime example of him having the ball, having time to measure the pass and assess his options, and he played a beautiful pass. And Harry Kane, you can't underestimate how difficult that finish is on 100%. The angle, on his weaker foot. To steer that into the side netting it's a world-class finish. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Very few strikers in the Premier League pull that off. Very few. But Kane is one of them. That's a masterful finisher at his very best.
And he was head and shoulders above everyone on that pitch yesterday. Harry Kane was unplayable yesterday. He was dropping deep. He was our playmaker yesterday. He was spreading the ball left, right. His passing was near enough Man City levels, the way he was performing against Man City. I mean, it was that kind of level of performance yesterday. He was
playing centre-mid in the second half a lot of the time.
He was playing it to perfection as well.
Yeah.
Playing it to perfection. And it was all capped off with that link-up play with Sonny right at the end. That ball... Oh my God! It had shades of that goal, maybe against Southampton at the early stages of last season when he put it on a plate for Sonny again, and then obviously Sonny does what Sonny does and finishes it in the back of the net, and that was the record-breaking goal, wasn't it?
It was
to make them the most lethal partnership in Premier League history.
And what a way to break the record as well. It was, as I said, as I tweeted, if De Bruyne made that pass, there'll be a 3-part documentary about it on Netflix. It was that good. It was unbelievable. So deep inside his own half. Literally, it wasn't even near the halfway line. It was really deep inside his own half. And to have the power, the accuracy to pull that off right onto Sonny's chest. And can't take away from Sonny as well what control that was to get in right into position to score and fire at home. And I think he deserved that goal as well, Sonny, because I think he had a very good game.
Yeah.
And he looked a bit sharper. He looked a lot more threatening with his running. And it was actually one of the first times I've seen Sonny in that number 10 position really strike through the heart of a defence. And maybe it's
time and time again, wasn't he?
Yeah, and maybe it's because they left space, which teams like Burnley don't. But definitely it was one of Sonny's better performances in that position. But yeah, Harry Kane, that, you know, as he has the passing of Paul Scholes, he's got the finishing of Alan Shearer. He's just the perfect player. It was an unbelievable performance. That pass capped off was another near 10 out of 10 performance from Harry Kane.
I saw a tweet last night, not to do the dirty on your comparisons, but I thought this one was I loved it a bit more. It was like the passing of Glenn Hoddle and the finishing of Jimmy Greaves, and that's exactly what we saw yesterday, and that's what we've been seeing in the last couple of weeks as well. Unbelievable displays from Harry Kane, and I've asked you the question before, I'm going to ask you again, but is this the best version of Harry Kane we're seeing?
It's hard to disagree. I think he looks as fit as ever. I think he's doing a lot more running, I think, than he did last season, as much as he was doing great last year. He was top class. He was also dropping deep in being the striker, and I actually think last season was great. But this season, I think the difference is I'm seeing a lot more defensive work. I'm seeing a lot more output physically from him than potentially he was last season. Is this the best version? Yeah, I have to say, yeah. At the moment, these last few weeks, I think he's been an absolute monster. I think he's been unstoppable. He comes in centre mid and he's playing like perfect through balls. He goes into the box and he's doing unbelievable finishes like yesterday. I can't think of a time he's played better than this. I think last season he was brilliant. He was also brilliant. He was probably the best player in the Premier League last season. So it's hard to say that he's better. He's 100% on par with that, if anything. He's on par with last season, but probably, given the work rate he's putting in now, you have to say he's better. You have to say he's better.
What a player. What a player Harry Kane is. Who else should we talk about? I mean, the defence as a whole, I thought actually at times, especially in the last 10, 15 minutes of the first half, the defence did look a bit shaky at times. But I thought all in all, we did our job really well. Eric Dyer orchestrating things, Romero and Ben Davis both playing really well. I mean, how did you assess the defence yesterday?
I think it was solid for most part. I think when it came to being an open play, there was a period at the end of the first half we were under the cosh, but I think they held strong, to be honest. I think, as I said, there were a few isolated moments they would be happy with, like when they hit the post and they had the open goal, and then also Dan James near the end of the game had a very good opportunity to score. Obviously, those things you won't be happy with, but you know, against Leeds, they're so offensive that they're always likely to create at least one or two chances against you. They do that against the very best teams. Against Liverpool, even they lost 6-0 and they were having chances as well in that game. So it's hard to have the perfect display against a team so offensive as Leeds. But I think for the by and large, they were solid. I think we were compact, and I think we knew what we were doing defensively, and we had a plan. And I think also maybe having Romero there on the right-hand side allowed Doherty a bit more license to get forward and get into those positions, because he was there time and time again on the right-hand side, getting in behind and being an option. And maybe Romero, being as good of a defender he is, gives the fullback a bit more confidence, because maybe with Sanchez there, there's always an element of, if I get caught out, I'm going to need to get back in position and cover, and maybe that's why I won't get as far forward. But yesterday, I think Romero had another very good game, and I think maybe he gives the wing back more confidence.
Yeah, seemed like that.
And Dyer's passing was brilliant again, by the way.
Yeah, it was. It really was. Back on Lloris for a second, because he's going through one at the moment. He really is. I mean, mistake yesterday that nearly cost us a goal. That should have cost us a goal. A few mistakes in the past few games that's cost us goals. I mean, Burnley aside, he's made a mistake in the last 3 or 4 games, hasn't he? Are we worried at all about Hugo?
I think yesterday was a bit different because the other games were his handling, which were the problem, and obviously that's not good enough. I think yesterday, I didn't mind him coming out and sweeping the ball. I actually think he initially did very well to get the ball. He just his kicking's never been a strong point, has it? And he tried to be a bit too confident to lay it off where he probably just should have booted it out of play. That's what Lloris under Mourinho would have done. Just he would have come out and just booted it out of play. Maybe he wanted to have a bit more confidence. He maybe had a bit too much confidence, and he thought on his right foot he could pass it out, and he screwed that up. But no, look. Yeah, he might be going through a bit of a period, but I'm not worried about it. I think he's all right. I think he made a couple of good saves as well. I don't think it's a massive problem for me how he's playing. I mean, look, I'm also not happy he's making mistakes, but I'm not too worried about dropping him or anything like that.
All right, yeah, I kind of agree with you. But in terms of the way this looks at the outlook of our season now, I mean, we can't really read too much into that performance yesterday because Leeds were that poor. Their manager's gone now in Bielsa, which we'll have a word on in a second. But in terms of moving forward and back in the top 4 race and all that kind of stuff, there's not really much to read into, is there?
Yeah, I mean, I said before in the preview, Leeds are probably the perfect opposition for us.
Yeah, they were.
And that's exactly because they're like Man City, not like the way they play, Man City light. It's like they do all the pressing and try and do the possession. They're just not as good as it at all. And we saw how Man City played into our hands, and Leeds even more played into our hands than Man City. I think the formation we played, how they leave space, how we like to defend, and then spring on the opposition. It was perfect for us. Leeds played right into hands, and not just that. Their pressing was a bit off it, and if that happens, and you become very easy to play around, and especially when you got someone like Harry Kane who you pass the ball in, they're going man for man, and he's able to hold off anyone in that Leeds team, Harry Kane, and he did it time and time again. And then once he was able to turn, there's so many runners for him to pick out. It was just a disaster for Leeds, and it was perfect for us. And you're not going to get that every game. Against Burnley, it was very, very different. Harry Kane, when he was able to turn, there wasn't any space for him to pass into. It was just a very different game. And there's still going to be question marks how we play against teams who sit as deep as Burnley. And those question marks haven't gone away just because we've beaten Leeds. But what I would say is it was still very, very positive and very, very confidence boosting for the likes of Doherty to get a goal and have a performance like we'd never seen a performance like that from Doherty. Sessegnon playing that ball across the face of goal to Doherty on a sixpence. That also has rarely happened so far. So look, that how many times has Sessegnon got in that position and screwed up the pass? And yesterday he didn't. And maybe that's a sign of something different. Obviously, Harry Kane continuing his form, Son getting back in the goals. So there were a lot of positives, and hopefully it'll give us a lot of confidence. But definitely, we can't say just because we beat Leeds 4-0 that we're now back in the top 4 race or anything like that. It's just we have to make sure we're keeping up the momentum.
Yeah, you've got to take it game by game at the moment. And, next game in the league at Everton. Everton had a very good display yesterday against Man City. And they're going to definitely prove a sterner test than Leeds did, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably, in a way, a good thing that they lost because that means the need for a win in that next game is probably more, and that could suit us in a way because it might mean they're not too content with a draw, and that could leave a bit of space for us. But yeah, we have to look. They're going to be a much more difficult opponent than Leeds. Under Lampard, I'm not saying they're perfect, but they're probably a bit more aggressive and they're a bit better than they were under Benitez, and they're definitely trying harder. So it's going to be a stern test, and they do have quality. Richarlison, if Calvert-Lewin's fit, they have quality up front.
Van den Beek playing really well at the moment.
Yeah,
and just know Dele Alli will have a good game against us as well.
Oh yeah, Dele's back as well. So it's going to be difficult if you're not careful against a team like Everton. If they turn up, they can hurt you. But it's all about us just making sure we're defending in the right way. We're not giving up stupid opportunities and free kicks. Again, yes, they set pieces. They nearly cost us. if we're not giving away super free kicks, we can definitely go into that game with a lot of confidence again, especially at home.
And the last word from the preview and talk, just a quick word on Bielsa. Obviously, I don't know if he was sacked or he left.
Some saying sacked, some saying mutual termination.
But I think that if he is sacked and if Bielsa hasn't walked, I think Leeds are going to live to regret that move, because he completely changed Leeds United as a football club. He did a lot for the city, a lot for the fan base, a lot for the football club. And I was listening to Talk Sport on the way in, and they had a few Leeds fans calling in. Apparently there's a protest outside the Leeds training ground today, them wanting Bielsa to stay. And I think it's going to come back to haunt them, and I think they're more likely to go down without Bielsa than with Bielsa this season.
Things have definitely gone sour a bit in terms of results-wise, and I think it's not as much to do with his playing methods as it is to do with maybe the quality of players they have. It's a bit like Pochettino, how we always used to suffer from burnout, and then once he kind of had a bit of time to develop it, like he developed ways that we didn't suffer as much burnout at the end of the season or second season as Bielsa's doing. I think Bielsa's run this team into the ground for a few years, and now it's kind of they can't keep it up, and that's what we're seeing at the moment. So I think,
but with top players, they're top players. Calvin Phillips
injured,
Bamford. They're top players. They're basically their spine of their team has been injured and had big injury problems this season. So, I mean, it's a bit harsh for Bielsa to lose his job over that, because I think if these players were playing, it would be a different story for Leeds.
And
completely.
Also, they're on the back of a very hard run. United at home, Liverpool away, and Spurs at home. Games which probably before the season you're expecting to lose anyway.
Yeah.
I know they've been battered, but this is the way Bielsa plays: high risk, high reward. And yeah, they'll get battered by these teams, but then they'll go and beat Norwich 2 or 3-0, and they'll go get good results against teams around them. And there's no guarantee that if now they've sacked Bielsa, they're going to bring someone else, that he's going to get out. Because look, let's be honest, with Phillips out and Bamford out, look at the rest of their team. They got Rafinha, but
a lot of them Bielsa took over in the Championship.
Like who's that great?
Like this Cooper, Ayling, all these players, they were under Bielsa in the Championship.
Cooper and Ayling, yeah, I think Bielsa was getting a different level out of them than what they really are. Dallas is he's a decent Premier League player, but like who was in midfield?
Again, Dallas was there when in the Championship, so a lot of these players come from the Championship and have been Championship players. You know what I mean?
You got Forshaw, who's average, Harrison,
Struijk and all these players,
Struijk, Koch, and Klich. Like they're not terrible, but they're not like Bielsa was getting them to play really good football, where maybe if they bring in a manager who's going to bring in a more pragmatic approach to try and shore things up, maybe they lose that edge that got them to where they are in the Premier League. And what it was they might get battered a few games, but they'll win enough games to stay in the league because of the way they play.
Yeah.
And if you take that edge away from them, that attacking edge where they're always creating chances, if you blunt them a bit to shore up the defence, they might end up becoming a blunt animal. And all of a sudden they might, and because without that system in place, are the players good enough to be creating chances from within their own right? I mean, except for Rafinha, I don't know.
No, I don't think so. And I'm actually backing Leeds to go down now.
They're in a terrible position in the league. They're not in a very good position at all.
No, they're on 23 points.
But the games in hand is
16th,
bad.
Yeah, and Burnley and Everton, both 17th and 18th, only 2 points in it and got 2 games in hand, both of them. So the way it looks at the moment, it looks like Norwich, Watford, Leeds and Brentford are very much in the...
That's the thing. Because Everton, I think Newcastle are dragging themselves out of it at the moment, the way things are going. Obviously, they could still, with a few losses, they still could go back in it. But at the moment, they're on a great run. Eddie Howe's doing good stuff. I don't think they're going down. Everton, as soon as Lampard has a few more games, when Calvert-Lewin's back fit, I can't imagine they're going to go down. They might struggle, but then I can't see them actually getting relegated. I think they'll have enough to stay up. So then it really is between Leeds, Brentford and Burnley for that final spot. I can't imagine Leicester getting dragged into it, although they're only 6 points clear. So, I mean, but they got the games in hand, so they'll be all right, I think, Leicester. So it really is between Brentford, Leeds and Burnley. Burnley always stay up. So it could be between Brentford and Leeds who goes down.
Yeah.
And I think Brentford are suffering a bit from second half of the season syndrome. I think they're being found out a bit, But Leeds, now sacking Bielsa, will they have enough? We'll see.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see with that one, but I definitely think it's going to be a bad decision. I think they'll look back at this maybe in a year's time, or maybe even at the end of the season, and think like, maybe we made the wrong decision there.
I think so, yeah, because I think sometimes clubs do panic, and you sometimes do get the manager bounce, but sometimes you don't. And it goes on, doesn't get talked about enough that sometimes you sack a manager and actually it gets worse. And I've seen that a few times. I'm trying to remember who it was exactly. I think was it Newcastle? I can't remember who it was. There were a team who were like not even in that bad of a relegation fight. Look at Watford, to be honest. They were actually like 13th, and they sacked their manager. They brought in Ranieri, and they got far worse than they were. Yeah. And all of a sudden, they're now in a dogfight. Yeah. Like
now they're 19th.
Sometimes the grass isn't always greener. When so we'll see if what happens to Leeds. But I question whether their squad's good enough without Bielsa's methods to stay up.
All right. Well, that is our match review from the game yesterday. 4-0 at Ellen Road.